you should be ashamed of yourself, or are you going to give me that talk that's going to be like, well, Farahana, you noticed it, sit with it. What did you like about your behavior? What did you not like so much about your behavior?
Yeah.
What was the outcome of that? And what would you do next time to kind of be like, oh, this was a better outcome. This was a better response.
Right.
So if we can offer that to somebody else, can we offer that to ourselves?
I know. How do we speak kind words to ourselves that
Exactly.
we're so comfortable sharing it? So how do you become your own best friend, in other words, right?
That's true.
In order to maybe just put the judger to sleep.
That's right. And just noticing kind of when the ego wants to come in and tell you the story that you are absolutely the worst person on the face of the planet right now, versus, no, how am I going to see myself as a person who is not perfect, just as nobody is, but how can I be more self-aware and take accountability? Mindfulness for me is almost like looking into a mirror.
Okay.
So you look at it and you say, these are the qualities about myself. These are the actions that I take that I'm really proud of, that make me happy, that help me show up as my best self.
Okay.
Well, on the other side, there's the sides, we look at yourself as duality, right? There's the light side and the dark side. So these are the sides, the shadow that, kind of exist, but how can I just accept that they are here for now, and what work can I do to improve that? How do I grow myself? It's like mindfulness is this mirror that is a non-judgmental mirror.
Okay.
So in whatever way you're looking at yourself,
okay.
do it in a manner that is full of compassion, that is full of kindness, that is full of acceptance of the now.
Okay.
Right?
And would you say just adopting more patience?
I think
and tolerance for yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, life is a journey. Any type of change is a process, right? To practice loving kindness.
Absolutely.
Would you say that?
Absolutely,
important?
because there's this component of mindfulness where there's the kindness component, the compassionate component. Myself as a mom, for instance, right? I'm going to unconditionally love my son.
And her son is totally adorable. He's so beautiful.
He is, and thank you so much. And how do I look at him, right? Do I look at him with judgment? No. I look at him adoringly, despite all the errors, despite all the mistakes. I just love him unconditionally.
Right.
But we're so quick to pass on that unconditional love to somebody else, but not to ourselves.
I know.
And I think that's key.
That's so important.
It's so important.
So important.
And so and that's what mindfulness is teaching us, is awareness of the present moment, acceptance of the present moment, allowing it to just unfold as is, and how can we sit with it?
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to sit with ourselves when we did something super epic for someone, when we, did a great job, and when we were praised for it, and we sit and we gloat and we just want to delve into all the goodness and greatness of all of that.
Right.
But I think for myself, especially on my journey with mindfulness, is how about when I don't feel that way? It's really important, I think, just in the way we live in society today, and all the judgment, the stories, when we're dealing with children, the bullying, the suicide, the mental health, when things are going greatly for people regardless of their age, we can delve into soak in all the goodness, like I said. But when things get really harsh, why is it that we push it away? Why is it that we reject it? Why is it that we put on a mask and pretend like it doesn't exist? Mindfulness teaches us to bring all of those experiences and coexist with them. Yeah. Because life is not always joyful.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
And it's equally important to feel the joy as it is the sorrow.
Because in order to really understand the fullness of joy, you had to have had some sorrow, right?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, how do you know it's joy?
Absolutely.
Right?
And as a conversation that I was having earlier today, is you don't experience light without knowing what darkness is.
Right.
You have to experience all that you are not before you can truly understand all that you are. And so it's just that coexisting and in the duality of that existence, and who am I right now,
and just understanding how to embrace
it.
yourself fully.
Absolutely.
Meaning the good, the bad, the not so pleasant. It's like, okay, this is who I am a work in progress.
Right.
And that I'm not one dimensional. And to
absolutely, because when you can do that for yourself, when you can master that for yourself,
right.
you learn to also coexist with other people who are on their own journeys,
right.
who are going through their own experiences at different times, but just allowing that to unfold for them, and just being a part of that without judgment, with compassion, with kindness.
I still think it goes back to the conversation we're having with ourselves all the time. How we're just our own worst critic. It's never good enough. And I noticed that when you do that to yourself, you're comfortable doing that to others, right? And so you kind of, here's how I look at it, like, people are like a mirror. Like, what you see in others is exactly what's going on inside of you, right? Absolutely.
Right. And so, it's, you learn to realize then that you take more accountability.
Right.
You take accountability for your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You stop pointing fingers at another person and say they did this, because your mindfulness mirror is going to show you kind of and hold you accountable.
And see, that's what's scary, because we're very comfortable blaming and playing the victim and saying it's someone else's fault. I've done that, right?
Right.
But it totally keeps you out of a place of power, because you have to take ownership for your life, for your thoughts and your behavior, in order to experience love from the inside out, right?
Absolutely.
And so for people who are comfortable blaming others, saying it's them, it's not me, they did it to me, it's their fault, what would you say to help someone just make the shift? That's one of my areas where, how do you help a person feel empowered, meaning where you are in your life as a result of choices and decisions you've made. And it's not anything that you have to be shameful of, but just to know that from this point, just by being aware of it, you have the opportunity to change it, right?
Absolutely.
And reclaim your power that's already within you.
Well, exactly, because you ultimately, like you said, become completely powerless.
Right.
If you rely on somebody else or something else, something external in the world that you claim as separate from you. For example, I can only experience joy if I have a soulmate. I can only experience joy if I have this job that pays this much. I can only experience fulfillment and joy if I live in this type of house. Basically, what you've done is you put the ownership on everything outside of you in order to give you that fulfillment in your life. Whereas if you take that power back and say, it resides here, joy resides here, fulfillment resides here, completeness is here. I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not handsome enough, I don't have enough money. Those are all limiting beliefs. That is the story we create and recreate in our heads all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's something I talk about in my book, You Are Enough, realizing that who you are as a human being, it's enough. Everything you've gone through is being able to look at it in a different context to help you love yourself more and to understand that this is what you have to work with.
Absolutely.
This is the gift you've been given, the life you live right now. This is what you've been given. And how do you give yourself permission to practice more self-love, more self-care, more healthy self-talk, more healthy self-dialogue, so that you have a better relationship with yourself, because that's the person or the relationship you bring to all of your other relationships.
Yeah.
Like, you're the person who shows up at all of your relationships, right?
Right, you're the common denominator. So you can how many people are you going to blame for doing you wrong?
Right.
They're all different people, whether it was with a spouse or a boyfriend or or your parents or a coworker or whatever. All these people in the world don't suck. At the end of the day, you're the common denominator. Right. It's like I pointed one finger at one person over and over again, but I've got three pointing right back at me.
Right.
That's when the mindfulness mirror kicks in and says, truly look at yourself.
Right.
But look at yourself in a manner that's non-judgmental. I think that is, I can't repeat that enough. You have to be able to show yourself compassion. You have to be able to extend loving kindness to yourself. You have to be forgiving to yourself, because there is a lot to discover of the mistakes that we made.
Yeah.
And how do we then learn from that? You can't learn from it without forgiving yourself for it.
Right.
In my book, Doing and Being, which is, kids, it's for children.
Okay.
The main character in the book is 4 years old, Charlie is. But every time parents read it to their kids, they're always talking about how, I really needed to read this book. It was a really simple reminder of the way I live my life on a daily basis and how I really need to shift that. And basically what I've used is the concept of the breath, the basic breath, and our five senses, but using that more intentionally and purposefully.
Okay. Talk to us a little more about five senses. Like, what are you saying there?
So for example, I love to use this example.
Okay.
So, say for example, I'm sitting in a coffee shop and I'm working away, and there's a person that's next to me having a conversation on the next table.
Okay.
And I hear something that perks my ears up and I'm super excited. I want to be part of that conversation. I mean, we would be more apologetic, maybe embarrassed, maybe feel awkward about the fact that this person is having this conversation that I want to be part and parcel of, because society has deemed that as eavesdropping, for instance.
Okay.
Right? But I call it, I'll just interrupt somebody and be like, excuse me, I was mindfully listening to you because, I have these 2 ears and I'm going to use them.
Okay.
And just being more intentional and using our 5 senses to really anchor in the present moment. I love the example of mindful eating. And this is kind of goes with the conversation of how do we become more mindful in our everyday and how can we incorporate mindfulness in just simple everyday activities.
Right, yeah, so let's walk through just a few simple practices so let's say a person's never meditated ever and they just have no clue about mindfulness and they're interested. If you could just share with us just a few basic fundamental things someone could do to just start adopting the practice,
right,
what would you suggest?
So if we're talking about a formal practice of meditation that you want to incorporate in your daily life, you might pick the first thing you do early in the morning. You find a comfortable space that's quiet and you really go into formal practice of focusing on your breath.
Okay.
You can focus on a word, compassion, you can do a visualization, whatever experience of meditation you choose, you can do that through a formal practice.
Okay.
10 minutes every morning, for example, 20 minutes. That time period might increase the more used to you get and more comfortable you get into the practice.
Okay.
Alternatively, or additionally also, there's the informal practice of being more mindful in your present day. And so, for example, brushing your teeth. Let's start with our kids and as a family to brush our teeth more mindfully. Well, what does mindful brushing mean? Well, just notice from the time that you take your toothbrush and you put toothpaste on it and you put it in your mouth. What does that feel like? What are some of the sensations you're experiencing?
Okay.
You might feel tingling. You might feel tickling. You might feel coolness. You might feel, it feels minty or whatever. But just really soaking in the experience. What does the water feel like in our hands when we're washing dishes? What does the water feel like? What does the soap feel like? When we're eating, we tend to overeat.
Okay.
Because when we're eating, 9.5 times out of 10, we're either sitting at our desks at our office and we're like scarfing down our food and we're just eating and multitasking.
Okay.
Versus, I'm just going to take this grape and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to use my 5 senses. What does that mean? I'm going to use my sense of touch. What does it feel like? I'm going to use my eyes. I'm going to notice the colors, the textures, the taste in my mouth. When I start to eat more mindfully, I'm not just scarfing down the food, putting it in my mouth right away, but I'm actually preparing my digestive system.
Okay.
To almost give a message from my brain into my stomach to start preparing everything, the entire process from the time it goes into my mouth. I start salivating from the back of my mouth. Why do we do this? Because what you realize is when you eat more mindfully, you don't eat as much.
Okay.
How many times we're just like, oh my God, we're like on second helpings or third helpings. Like we just eating because we didn't really get to taste the food. Mm-hmm. Sometimes with just one helping of food, we're not overeating, you feel more satisfied.
Okay.
You feel more fulfilled in that experience of eating.
Okay.
Rather than just, eating it just like a robot automatically.
Yeah.
So everything becomes, you start noticing more, things that you didn't notice before, places that you go, walks that you go on. Just going on a mindful walk in nature.
Would you say it sharpens your awareness?
It sharpens your awareness. It sharpens your focus. It makes you notice like things that you wouldn't otherwise notice. Now, and because there are parts of the brain that are in place, and I'm not by any means a neuroscientist, but just on very basic terms, the areas of your brain that are being utilized on an everyday basis, certain parts of your brain become triggered, for instance, start functioning a certain way when we are triggered. And mindfulness kind of stops that or slows down the process of that side of the brain from functioning in a reactive manner and activates another part of the brain that says, hey, I can be more focused, I can make more rational decisions, and then we're also then able to retain information better in our memory bank. And that's why one of the benefits of mindfulness is memory. You're better able to remember stuff.
It improves memory.
It improves memory,
concentration.
Focus,
yeah.
So especially when you start at an earlier age,
okay,
you're slowing down or almost negating any possibility of onset dementia, for instance.
Wow.
So